What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about the quarterback that you should be buying over Joe Burrow and over Justin Herbert from the 2020 NFL Draft. Now, as you can see on screen, this player is Jalen Hurts. I've talked about him a lot in my videos. I think he has a lot of upside this season and is a dark horse MVP candidate just because of the numbers that he's going to be putting up. I don't know how well his team is going to play, but I think him personally is going to play really well, and I think his stats are going to be there. The one thing that I'm just learning now is, that I didn't know before, Jalen Hurts is actually the youngest of the group. He is 22 years old in 300 days, which puts him just a little bit younger, roughly 3 months younger than Justin Herbert, and he is also roughly 2 years younger than Joe Burrow, which is huge for a quarterback's developmental status. This gives him let's just say an extra 2 years to catch up to where Joe Burrow currently is, and an extra couple of months, which is roughly half of a season, to catch up to where Justin Herbert currently is. So I think there's a lot of potential there for Hurts. I think his team got a lot better this season. They're going to be healthier. I'm going to go over his stats again. And I've talked about this in some other videos. And I really do think you guys should watch those other videos to just get some more insight. And I'm not saying Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are a bad buy, but I'll get into later in the video why I think Hurts is a better buy currently. But the one thing that I want to cover is Hurts put up 1,061 yards in roughly 4.5 games. Now, those are really good numbers. And this is just passing yards. Now, he only played half of the one game because he got subbed in late and led them to a win. So if we divide his 1,061 passing yards, divided by his 4.5 games roughly, he averaged 235 passing yards per game. He averaged just about 1.5 touchdowns per game and 1 interception per game. I do think he had one game where he threw 3 picks. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe we can find a game log down here somewhere. But that's actually the wrong thing. But as we can see, in these last few games that he played, weeks 11 through 15, you can look, and actually we're not going to be able to find it because I clicked advanced game logs by accident. But if you do want game logs, just go to Football Reference, and down here it says game logs. That's what you're going to want to click, where it says 2020, and it should lead you to be able to see how the player played on a per game basis. And of course it's going to take a while. But as we can see here, for passing, touchdowns are right here, interceptions are next to it. In week 11, he went 5 of 12 for 109 yards, or week 12 actually. And he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Then he had 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions in a win over, is that New Orleans? I think it is. And then he had 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in a big win over Arizona. And then 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in a loss to Dallas. And I think I said win over Arizona. They lost to Arizona as well. And then I don't even count this last game against Washington. I think the Eagles, you can obviously see if you look at videos where Jalen Hurts says this isn't fair. The team was just trying to tank and get a better draft spot. So it's really just hard to rate that as a true game because I just don't like what the Eagles were doing there. But regardless, he did put up good numbers. He just didn't have the passing touchdowns, in my opinion, or the passing numbers. Now, if we go back, although he did play really well, and I think he played really well passing the football with the team that he had in place around him, 1,061 yards, 52% completion percentage, I don't think is that bad. But the one thing that I do like about him, and we'll see how this sack percentage goes down, or at least compares to Joe Burrow, who had one of the worst offensive lines, and I want to see what Herbert's is. But he didn't play that bad passing the ball. I think he actually played pretty well for the players that he had around him, and we'll pull up the depth chart later. But they really did make some offensive improvements, and maybe, just maybe, if you can get Jalen Reagor to be a capable receiver at least play at a mediocre level. I think that would only help Hurts' floor, having another really good receiver around him. If Ertz can have a bounce-back season, Goddard's returning from injury, I think this could be a really good offensive team with the offensive line that they have, and I think people need to look into that. But if we also look at his 4.5 games, he had 354 yards rushing, which is actually a really good number. That's roughly 679, 78 and 2/3, so 79 yards per game, along with his, I think we said 235 yards passing, which equates to 313 total yards of offense every single game, last season at least, averaging. So I think that's a really good amount of numbers. I think those are MVP type numbers. Maybe if we can increase that passing number a little bit more, and I'm sure that will happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at like around 270 yards passing per game, just because of the improvements that they've made on the offensive side of the ball. I think they still will be in a hole a lot of games, which will require him to pass the ball, which is a very important aspect of investing. If the team's going to be down a lot, they're going to be throwing a lot more, which means the numbers are going to be a little inflated. But if people aren't checking that, that could help his status as an MVP contender. And I think people are really not looking at Hurts as that MVP contender yet because of how bad his team was. But let's go check Joe Burrow's. And now if we see his sack, it's percentage of time sacked when attempting to pass, just based off of pretty much how many times are they sacked per game. Jalen Hurts' was 8.1%. Joe Burrow's, I would expect to be higher, and no, it's lower at 7.3%, which means Hurts is getting sacked more times per game. And then let's see Justin Herbert's, which was 5.1. Now, if you look at the difference between at least Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, I think it was roughly 2.2%. That doesn't seem like a big difference, but that is massive. That is a big aspect of why Justin Herbert won Rookie of the Year, and people are thinking he's going to be such a good quarterback. Sure, his numbers were a little bit better. He averaged a 66.6% completion percentage, which is really, I think that's really good for a rookie. 4,300 yards passing, which I think is good, and a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio with 31 touchdowns is also a really good number. He did break that the rookie touchdown record, which I'm very happy for him. I mean, it's good to see players break records. They're meant to be broken, and that's good for people that have invested in him. But if you look down here, Herbert had 234 total yards rushing the entire season. Excuse me. Hurts had 100 more yards than that in only 4.5 games, whereas Herbert played 15 as a starter, which is a number to consider. Hurts is going to be like a Lamar Jackson-esque player with his rushing numbers. I'm not saying he's equivalent, but I think his rushing numbers are going to be very similar to what Lamar's are going to be this year. I think even Joe Burrow might have had a few more rushing yards. I'm not 100% sure. We can check that, though, if we can even get there, with my computer being very slow, unfortunately. But Joe Burrow put up 142 yards. So no, he actually did not rush more. Joe Burrow was technically the least mobile based off of his rushing yards, but we all know he's going to be a drop back passer, and he's just going to be slinging the ball. He did have a not as good of a season as Herbert passing the ball. He was playing pretty poorly, though, down the stretch. I think the first half of the season was a lot better for him than the second half was. But his completion percentage was still around 65%, which is just a little bit behind Herbert's. But his yards were not there, and his touchdown to interception ratio at least was a little bit lower. But it still was up there. I think he could have put up a pretty good season in comparison to Justin Herbert, and he could have competed with him for Rookie of the Year. But the record, 2-7-1, was very different than Herbert's 6-9, I think it was, and Jalen Hurts 1-3. So I would like to see Burrow and Hurts improve this season. But if you can kind of see where I'm getting, I think Joe Burrow is a better buy than Justin Herbert is currently because of the bounce back season a lot of people are expecting him to have, just based off of the team around him. But I think Jalen Hurts is a better buy than the two of them. I think Burrow is not a buy for one reason, and that is his division that is around him. It's a very tough division where you've got three teams that are most likely going to make the playoffs in the Ravens, or at least going to be borderline contenders for the playoffs. You have the Ravens, You have the Steelers, who started last season like 14-0, and then you have the Cleveland Browns, who have arguably the best defense in the NFL, with the Ravens and Steelers not far behind. So I don't think it's possible that their division is going to get 4 playoff teams. I don't think they're going to get 3. I think one of those teams is going to be the odd man out, unfortunately. But I think next year is going to be a better year, or at least maybe in the offseason. And I could be totally wrong. Joe Burrow could have a really good year next year. I just don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But his cards could go up to a point where they're never going to get where they are now. And I could see that happening. But I don't think the Bengals are going to make the playoffs this next season, which is going to have some people get worried. They might say, you know what, I'm going to sell. I'm going to get a player that's already going to make the playoffs. I want that safer bet. And that's going to happen to some people. And we could see his numbers drop a little. But I think they are going to rise, at least at the beginning of the season, because I am expecting him to play better. But I do think Joe Burrow's numbers are going to drop a little. But that's why I think Jalen Hurts is the better buy, because of his team and his division. The Eagles were, up until the last couple of weeks of the season, they still had a chance to make the playoffs because of how weak their division was. I don't think the division is that much improved. The Giants are looking like a pretty good team on paper. We'll see how that correlates, though, to the actual season and in-game action. But I think the Eagles have a very good shot to win their division with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, even if he plays how he did last year with that really 1.5 touchdown to interception ratio. But if he puts up those yards, I think he'll really help his team win. I want to look at their prices next, because Jalen Hurts is by far, and this is as expected, the cheapest of the bunch. I've been trying to find some ones that weren't best offers, and it's kind of been tough because I don't know how much this optic blue is going to be there for every other player. But one card that I did find here is a playoff ticket, and I think this is the variation of Jalen Hurts number to 49. It recently, 4 days ago, went for $401. Now, Justin Herbert's are not as expensive as Joe Burrow's. They're more expensive, but Burrow is very close behind him because he's a redemption. That means the population's a little bit lower, I would say, and people don't have as many because Burrow was extremely short printed, and so is Herbert. But because he's a redemption, his prices are going to be a little bit higher once people start getting them back. But if we can find any, this is a championship ticket as well. I think this is the Hurts that we found was a championship ticket, or it was a playoff ticket, whereas Herbert's is a championship ticket, but they are both numbered to 49. We can see Herbert went for $1,300, while Hurts was only $401, and that means that Herbert is selling for roughly 3.25 times Jalen Hurts' cards, and let's see where Joe Burrow is. As you can see, his cards are really expensive because he was a redemption. His base auto BGS 9.5 is going for $2,800, which we could see is double the number that this Justin Herbert to 49 went for. So Burrow's cards are going to be really expensive. We can see he's right around $1,000 for a base auto, where Herbert is right around $1,300 for a numbered. I do think the base is almost as good as the numbered, though, and for some reason it just happens to be that way. I don't get it, but I would recommend you guys grade your contenders autos because the price does shoot up a bit, but I don't think we're going to be able to find a comp to that number to 49. I don't think we will. Not going to look too hard for it. We know Burrow is a little bit behind Herbert, and Herbert is 3.25 times the amount that Jalen Hurts are going for, which makes me think that there is a lot of room on Hurts' cards, and it makes me think that Burrow's cards might be a little bit, and I'm not saying this because I do think he has a lot of room to go, but I think they're a little high right now, considering the year that he had, and considering the year that Justin Herbert had, where he won Rookie of the Year and broke these records. I think Herbert's numbers should be a little bit higher than they are compared to Burrow's, and I think Hurts is at a really good spot with room to grow. But I think Burrow's numbers are a little bit high, and take that into account with me not expecting his team to do that well. I don't think Burrow is as good of a buy as Jalen Hurts is. And now I want to look at this Philadelphia Eagles depth chart. Now, Joe Flacco has been a really good quarterback in the NFL. He's had a really long career, and I think he can help Jalen Hurts a lot in practice, just competing with him. They did pick up Kerryon Johnson to be that backup running back. I think he's better than Boston Scott is, and I do think Kenneth Gainwell is too, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kenneth Gainwell shoots up that depth chart because he was a really good college running back. I'm pretty sure he went to Buffalo. But I do see Miles Sanders keeping that starting role if he doesn't get injured. He has been kind of injury prone last year. He missed a lot of the season with injuries. But if he is back, he's a guy that can play all three downs. He's a phenomenal pass catcher, which always helps a quarterback when they have that easy option to throw to. His receivers got a lot better. I think that we could see it being Devonta Smith, Jalen Reagor, Travis Fulgham, and Greg Ward. I think Fulgham proved that he's a really good receiver. I think he's a little bit better than Greg Ward is. In my opinion, Arcega-Whiteside was, I think, a first or second round pick, so he still has a lot of potential if he can get somewhere close to that. You've got two of the best tight ends in the NFL in Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, along with a really good offensive line that I think was injured a lot of the year last year. Landon Dickerson's a really good guard or center out of Alabama. He should be able to fill a role if somebody goes down with injury. I think this Eagles offense is going to be a scary offense this season. I think a lot of people are underestimating them, and I think they're going to play really well with Jalen Hurts getting another year kind of experience, getting that summer to actually play with the team that he didn't have last season because of COVID. The defense, I don't know too much about. It looks really good on paper. There's a lot of big names, and I don't know how they played last year. I could be wrong. They could have been a really good defense. I'm just not 100% sure. I don't think they were off the top of my head, but I do think on paper they look really good. I could honestly see this team winning the division. They didn't play like that last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I mean, even on special teams, Jake Elliott's a pretty good kicker. Greg Ward's a really good returner along with Boston Scott. They're both really fast. I could see this team scaring some of these really good teams. I don't see them beating some Super Bowl contending teams. I want to see if I can pull up their schedule here and see who they are going to play this season. As we can see, because we know they're going to play the teams in their division, which are like the Giants, the now football team, and I'm forgetting one other team. I don't know why. I think the Saints. But we're not looking at preseason. Falcons is a game that they can win. 49ers is going to be a tough game. I'll give them a loss, so we're at 1-1. Cowboys, I think they could win 2-1. Chiefs has to be a loss, 2-2. So as you can see, they can beat the Panthers, but I don't think they're going to beat the Bucs. They can beat the Raiders, and I can see them beating the Lions and the Chargers and the Broncos. That's a really good stretch there where it'll really prove how good this team is going to be. I think that October and early November is going to be a huge month for this team. They're going to be playing the Chiefs, Buccaneers in October, and then you've got 4 kind of easy games that they should win. I think that right there is going to prove how good this team is, and that might shoot up his prices. I think this 4-game stretch is where I would be looking to sell my Jalen Hurts. If he can string 3 wins against the Raiders, Lions, and Chargers, he might be getting some hype. And then that Broncos game, I would sell right around that Broncos game if his numbers do go up and they win those games, obviously. But I think this is a team that could be a really good team. And I don't want to keep rambling on and saying the same stuff, but I think everyone should be buying Jalen Hurts. That's going to be my point in this video. If you missed everything else, this is what you need to listen to. Jalen Hurts is a better buy than Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you agree with me? If you disagree, why is that? And then make sure to watch my last video for the giveaway information if you guys want to win a PSA 10 Kevin Porter Jr. Prism rookie card. I'll catch you guys in the next one.